All right, take two. My name is Dale Lyden. I'm the treasurer for the Echo Lake Neighborhood Association, and I'd like to welcome you all to our June general meeting. Tonight, we're thankful that we are able to have most, if not all. I know we heard from all of our candidates for our 32nd district positions, and so it's such a benefit, I think, to hear all of you at one time. And so we will get to that in a little while. We've got a few things that we need to cover. First off, introductions. Again, Diane Hetrick, there you are.
I am here.
Board member Jay Sundahl.
Here.
Board member Claudia Meadows. And board member Wes Brandon. We have a former board member, Gidget Terpstra. And I don't see any other former board members, but if I do, I'll point them out and thank them for their many years of service. I'm not going to take time to introduce a lot of the people, but I guess what I would say is that if you are not a candidate and you are attending today, could you just, I'm just going to call some names out and just say hello, and so we can all, and just tell us within just a few words of who you are, where do you live, and why are you here. So first person I see is Pam Cross, and then Jill Steinberg next. But Pam, you're muted. Yeah, I'll let you unmute yourself. Jill, can you unmute yourself and say hi?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jill. I live near Cyree Elementary. I'm a former Shoreline School District family advocate and parent. And just thank you for hosting this event.
Oh, yes. Next, yeah, okay, Pam, you're unmuted.
Hi. I live in Hillwood, and really anxious to hear what all the candidates have to say. So I'm glad that I was invited to this meeting.
Fantastic. Marcine Anderson, one of our local judges.
I'm now a retired King County District Court judge, and
yes,
I
you
live
are.
in Echo Lake neighborhood, and I am so excited to hear what the candidates are going to tell us tonight.
Thank you for your many years of service, of good service.
You're welcome.
Harriet Bly, would you unmute yourself? Okay, while you're doing that, Jack Malik, you want to unmute yourself and say hi?
Hello. Hi, I'm Jack. I'm a resident of Shoreline and a local realtor.
Thank you. Harriet, can you unmute yourself? And then Gidget?
Oh, there I
There
am.
you are.
Oh, yes, I'm Harriet Bly. I live in Echo Lake, and I'm delighted to be here this evening.
Thank you. Gidget?
Terpstra, and I live in the Echo Lake neighborhood area.
Is Dennis with you tonight?
Maybe. We'll see.
Ellen?
Yes. Okay, I'm on.
Oh,
Okay, I'm Ellen Wood and have been here for 17 years in Shoreline. And I'm glad I got a text from my friend Harriet to tell me to remind me about signing on.
Fantastic. And Ellen is a former board member also. Gene Berry and Chris Gaston. Gene first, if you guys want to unmute.
I'm
Oh.
Jean. I live in North City, but I appreciate Echo Lake neighborhood because you guys have the best programs and bringing us news of our shoreline government. So kudos to the Echo Lake neighborhood.
Excellent. Thank you. Chris?
Hi, I live in North City, and thanks to Diane for putting this in the Seattle area news or the Shoreline area news. And because I like to go to candidate forums and find out, especially in primaries, because that's when you get a lot of people you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Nemo, Captain Nemo.
Hi. Yeah, there's a different name on Zoom. And I really appreciate your having this forum and appreciate Diane Hetrick and Shoreline Area News where I found out about this. So thank you very much. Oh, did I say I live north of the border in Mount Lake Terrace?
Excellent. Well, welcome. Let's see, I think I've got everybody that's on this screen. I'm going to switch screens. Gene Berry.
No, you did, Gene.
Oh, yeah, that's right. William Hochberg.
Yes, thank you. I'm Bill Hochberg. I live on the Edmonds Woodway border. My law office is downtown Edmonds, and I'm a longtime political activist for, I don't know, 50 plus years now.
Excellent. Well, welcome. Luke Preston.
Hi there, I'm Luke. I'm with Imran Siddiqui's campaign. We're grateful to be here.
Oh, fantastic. And let's see, George Downs and Elizabeth. George first. Elizabeth, unmute yourself too. And okay, Elizabeth, you want to unmute yourself and say hi?
This George.
All right, we finally, I think we got, nope, I'm still unmuted. All right. Can't make it work.
No, we probably. Okay, we got it back. We're in Shoreline, Hillwood. We always like to see what Elena's doing.
All right, welcome. Elizabeth?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth McKillop, and I'm here tonight because I got a nudge from my good friend Jean Berry about this, who knows that I take a great interest in listening to what the candidates have to say, and I think these days it's all the more important to do that. So thanks to Echo Lake for sponsoring this.
Yeah, welcome. Welcome. And last but not least, I believe, Chris Gaston. I don't think I've heard from you. Or did I?
Yes, I'm from North City.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Okay.
So I believe that's all. I don't see anyone else that I didn't recognize.
Dale,
and so
can I chirp in, chime in here? Okay. I'm Pat Deegan from Echo Lake Neighborhood Association, and I'm an advocate for Echo Lake Park and the Transit Center. But thank you.
that means you've used up your time, and I can't ask you to talk about the park now, Pat. No, thanks. So thank you all and welcome to you all. And I'm really encouraged. It's fun to see a lot of people from around the neighborhoods and not just our neighborhoods and also Mount Lake Terrace. You know, this 32nd district encompasses all the local cities. And so it's tonight we're all neighbors and I appreciate that. To get on with our business really quickly, I want to go through our treasurer's report. And so I will do that and I will share my screen. I have it up. I hope you can see it. We are high finance here. We're on a statement basis. So basically I get last month's statement about 3 days before this meeting. So, but our balance is 1584 to start with. We've had no expenses this month. Well, we have, but we haven't recorded them. They'll come out next month. And so here's our financial position in checking, savings, and petty cash. Of this amount, we are reserving $341 as the remainder of a grant that was provided by our King County Councilman Rob Dembowski for the Dwight Stevens bench. A couple years ago now, we installed a bench in honor of Dwight Stevens, who was kind of the founder of this neighborhood association. And so that bench is in Echo Lake Park. And so we've got some reserve that we can use for maintenance and plants. It's not a hard reserve. If we had to use it for something else, we're not bound by it. But I think it's just good practice to keep it separate as long as we can, or as long as we should, and use those funds for what it was intended for. So that's our financial position. And if anybody has any questions, they could certainly ask in the chat. And I will stop sharing now. It's quarter after. I want to get on with it so we can get on with the business at hand. Wes, will you talk about our July 21st picnic planning?
Yes, I'd love to talk about it. I'm taking everybody's name and their email. I'm going to draft you all because we're looking for volunteers for the night. It's going to be over at the Pavilion in the Shoreline Park, same place we had it last year. Hope to have a lot of participation from maybe some of you candidates. We're looking also at some of the neighborhood organizations that represent different facets of the neighborhood, the city, and those types of people. Come and set up little table booths for everybody to enjoy. Just a chance to come and spend an evening getting to know people in Shoreline and how things work. So hope to see you all there, 5:30 to 7:30, July 21st. And I've got your names. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, Pat, I'll give you 2 minutes to talk about Echo Lake Park.
Oh, I was pleased today the lawn got mowed. That was a number of people told me this grass is too long, but it was mowed. The other news is the Metro installed a new toilet, so a big throne they call it, and I'm reserving. It has some real pluses to it, and it has a little problem with accessibility for a few people, but it's working. Metro's working at that to provide that, and the park I'm pleased. Thank you.
Thank you. And Pat is a tireless advocate for Echo Lake Park. He was a tireless advocate for getting a restroom in the park, the Portland Loo. He's been a tireless advocate for restrooms on the King County Metro Transit Aurora Village, and public restrooms. And appreciate everything you do, Pat. You take the time, and you fill in, and we all kind of follow you and support you, and appreciate your hard work. Is there anyone else in the neighborhood association who might have a report on a meeting? I know I don't see Ann Michelle here tonight. No. Ann Michelle, Friends of Echo Lake, she quite often gives us an update on what's going on with Echo Lake. And if I don't see anyone else's hand, help me out too if you see anybody with their hand up, but I don't. And so the last person I just noticed, Dana Sundahl. You might recognize the last name. Dana, you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm here for the same reason many of you are, to listen to all the candidates, because I think it's really important, especially in the primary. to meet these people and find out what they're running for and what they're against. And I'm sure grateful that the Echo Lake is sponsoring this meeting.
Yeah, thank you. And Dana is a regular member of the Echo Lake Neighborhood Association.
Dale?
Okay. Yes.
Anne Michelle sent out an email today to her, including us, and there's algae in the lake again. Just got it clear, and now there's algae in the lake. So what she's asking people to do, particularly the people that live around the lake, is if you see it, take a picture of it and send it to her. They sent a sample off for testing, but they won't know for a couple of days if it's good algae or bad algae. We've been fighting this for a long time. And they've got the money to do this big treatment for the lake, but that can't happen until a certain time of year. So I'm sure we'll be hearing more about it from Anne.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that, and appreciate Anne sending that out to everybody. Okay. Not seeing or not hearing anyone else that may have a report. We can talk later if you do. It's 7:19. I want to get cracking on this and have our candidates say what they may. Right now, I'm not seeing Jenna Nand and Will Chen. They are the two that I'm not seeing. Oh, there you are. Thank you. Thank you. That's exactly why I did. And there's Will. Perfect. That's exactly why I did that. So at this point, I kind of worked it out. We have got 5 minutes with 2 minutes between each of you, and that's a pretty fast pace. And while we're talking, we're not going to entertain questions, but if you have questions for one or for all, please write it in a chat, and I'm going to propose that at the end of the meeting, we can send all the questions to all the candidates, and if there's one that's addressed to a single, that if you have the time and inclination, you can respond back to us. Well, how do we do that though? Well, I'm not sure how we get the information back. Diane, you're muted. You're
Would
muted,
it be possible
Diane.
to send it in an email to everyone who signed up for the meeting?
Yeah, well, I can compile everything and send it out to the general mailing list. Everybody will be interested anyway.
Perfect. Perfect. Cool. Thank you. Buddy, I didn't see, did we hear from you?
You didn't, but I wasn't going to take up time. I want to hear the candidates like everyone else. But hi, I'm Buddy. I want to hear the candidates too. I live over in Highland Terrace.
Perfect. Another neighborhood. All right. Well, thank you. Welcome. All right. So I have the list of candidates, and I think we sent it. Did we send it to everyone, to all the candidates?
Yes. All the candidates should have the list.
Good. Okay. So it was listed in a non-alphabetical order by positions. So we're going to start with the three positions for state senator, and I will start with Cindy and go to Ira next, and then Jesse. And so I'm going to get us started. I don't really have any ground rules other than we're going to really try to keep it going. And at this point, we've got 75 minutes of content. And so I'll give Cindy a moment, knowing that so she doesn't have to just start immediately. So I'll give you a few seconds. Excellent. So when you're ready, please start.
Sure. And I believe we each have 5 minutes. Thank you, everybody, for providing this venue for us to present, I guess, our best food foot forward might be the best way. I was living in North Seattle when 43 years ago, I married Cody, my husband. He wasn't named Cody at that time, at the Trinity Presbyterian Church on 160th in what is now Shoreline. And thereafter, we lived in his family home on 178th and Meridian when we used to use the Seattle address because we were not incorporated yet. And our first child ended up going to Echo Lake Elementary for kindergarten, and she ended up becoming a teacher. So maybe that was a great start. And then thereafter, we moved to our own home in Linwood, and then Edmonds, and back to Shoreline. And so I've lived in 4 out of the 6 cities that we represent in the 32nd district. So we had 3 children through both the Shoreline and Edmonds schools, and they're all Huskies. For our job or work, I used to work for the city of Seattle, and shortly after, the commute actually was pretty bad even in those days. So I ended up joining my husband, who had an all-state insurance agency. And if you remember the Sears store, they used to have those 3 booths between Allstate, Coldwell Banker, and I believe it was Dean Wither Reynolds. And he used to be one of those booth mates that would try to talk to you. And so he ended up having a pretty sizable all-state agency, and I, of course, helped him grow that. And we worked together in a 3-person small office for 17 years. And actually, our relationship got much better because I got to understand my husband. I'm sure he knew me quite well, but I got to understand my husband much better through work. And as we were going along, and we had come back from Lake City Way back to Aurora Avenue because he always missed Aurora Avenue and Shoreline. So once we got back in, we realized we were in the middle of the planning for the Aurora Avenue revitalization, I guess is the word we call it now. And even before that, there was a call for the young city at that time for a Shoreline Bond Advisory Committee. So I volunteered for that way back in 2003. And we did have a good, it ended up being a park bond measure. And for, I believe it was 16 years for $16 million for long-term investments. And that's part of the reason why we have such a nice park system. And thereafter, I ran for city council and got elected and served 2000 let's see, I got elected in 2005, so 2006 through end of 2009. And 2 of those years, I was elected mayor by my colleagues. So I served 2008 and 9 as the first Korean American woman to be mayor in USA, even though that wasn't why I wanted to be mayor, but I became famous. Thank you, Shoreline. There's been 3 of us altogether. It's apparently quite difficult to become mayor. I thought, anyway, I only needed 4 votes. I got 5 votes, and I thought that was a great deal. So during my term on the Shoreline City Council, we completed the first mile of Aurora Avenue, and we completely redesigned the second mile, even though it looks the same, because we started adopting the complete streets concept of scrubbing the road runoff and so on. And of course, the 3rd mile was the most expensive with the rain garden and the difficulties of along 200 to 205th. So I was very happy to see that finish. And then obviously you helped me get elected to the State House 8 times. What's that?
1 minute.
1 minute left. Sorry about that. I've been serving in the House Democratic Caucus as the chair of the Members of Color Caucus, and those were the challenging times. Also, I helped to protect driver's licenses data from federal overreach, and we helped scrub several high-use agencies, information from high-use agencies like DSHS. And then, of course, the recovery from the Great Recession. I also served for 14 of the 16 years on the Consumer Protection and Business Financial Institutions Committee to lead on reducing predatory lending, and Fuse awarded me for being a shark tamer. And now I am the chair of the Technology, Economic Development, and Veterans Committee. I believe that ends my 5 minutes.
You have 1 left?
1 minute.
Thank you.
1 second left. Okay.
I did want to, I apologize. I did want to acknowledge that you are the current state representative in position number 1. So I apologize for not mentioning that, but thank you again for all of your service to the city and to the district. And we wish you well. Next up, Ira McBee.
Yes.
Ira, there you are.
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. We can see you. So when you're ready to start, I'll hit the button.
All right. Well, thank you. My name is Ira McBee, and as of today, I have a 67-day political career. It started for me on my mom's birthday, April 10th. The good news is, after years of writing my representative emails, one of them showed up at my front door and knocked on it because of those emails. The bad news is my representative hadn't read any of my emails and thought I supported them. Now I'm running for state senate, and that was just a clarifying moment for me in feeling like accountability was slipping away in our state. I have never wanted to be a politician. Honestly, people generally like me before all of this. But I started my first retail business at 20 years old with nothing more than $200 and a roommate. And after that, grew that into an international operation after 4 years. And if you feel like you're working harder today in Washington and earning less, I don't think you're imagining it. I've spent my whole life showing up in hard places. For 2 decades, I worked in over 20 countries. I developed and wrote a conflict reconciliation curriculum while living in the West Bank. And I've had to work in areas shaped by active conflict, helping divided groups build trust, sometimes while literal bombs were exploding in the background, and watch enemies reconcile. My whole career, I've had to sit across the table from people who had every reason not to trust me, and I had to earn that trust anyways. And if that's possible, I believe Washington's possible. My wife and I are raising our family here in Esperance. She's a Linwood native. And like many families in 32, we've felt the pressures of rising costs and the growing frustration with the direction of our state. And I believe strong communities are built from the neighborhood up, not from Olympia down. I don't think Washington's failing because people don't care. I think it's failing because there's too little accountability for the results we're getting. When one party controls the governor's, the governor's office, the House, and the Senate long enough, I think that the tough questions stop getting asked. And I'm not running because I think Republicans have all the answers. I don't believe that. I'm running because I think healthy government requires balance and competition and people willing to ask, show me the results. Recently, the Seattle Times asked myself and my opponents about legislative privilege, which is the ability for legislators to conceal their communications from public scrutiny about how they voted on different bills or initiatives. And I think transparency is not a threat to good governance. It's actually a requirement for it. And that, I think Washington deserves representatives who aren't going to hide behind legislative privilege. And I think if Washington was working, we would all know it. Heck, I think we'd feel it. We'd feel it in our paychecks, we'd feel it on the roads, and we'd feel it in our schools. I think Olympia needs more independent judgment. It needs trust. It needs people who know how to build unity where it doesn't exist. And that's not a campaign slogan for me. That's literally been my life's work. I've spent 2 decades building those things in divided communities.
1 minute.
Where trust and unity were completely absent. And I know what it takes and I know it's possible. I believe in normal politics, ordinary expectations, and real results, like roads that get fixed, schools that actually teach, and parks where kids can play safely. And I don't think that's asking for too much. I think it's what the government's supposed to do. I believe Washington can be more affordable, more accountable, and more united. And I think it starts with balance. It starts with accountability. And I think it starts in our District 32. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. And thank you for being willing to run. You know, this system takes people who have opposing viewpoints and requires that to function. And so thank you. Thank you for being willing. The third person running for this position is the incumbent, State Senator Jesse Solomon. And Jesse, when you're ready, please start.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me. My name is Jesse Solomon. I'm running to keep my position, running for another term. There's lots of unfinished business. And for context, I have never doorbelled Ira McBee, but I do actually agree with some of his points. As a career, I was a child welfare prosecutor to begin with. That means that I protected abused children and represented them in court. It was not an easy job. It was one of the most difficult jobs I've had. And then I switched later to become a public defender for 13 years. And mainly, as we see now, there's assaults on the Constitution. Mainly my reason why, as a public defender, was to uphold the constitutional burden of proof. When the government is trying to imprison somebody, I think they should be able to prove it. Now, I sit on the Law and Justice Committee, and I'm definitely concerned about crime on Aurora. So I just want to be clear that just because I was a public defender doesn't mean I also live in this community and am affected by crime. I served 7 years on the Shoreline City Council. Some of you may know me from that, and 2 years as deputy mayor. And currently in the state Senate, I am the chair of the Senate Committee on Local Government that deals with a lot of things between dealing with housing regulations and then just sundry other issues with respect to the relationship between state and local government. I'm also a member of the Law and Justice Committee, so we deal with the criminal and civil laws of courts. And I'm on the Housing Committee as well as rules. As a chair, I focus on housing affordability. My whole sort of reason why is I want my son to be able to live near me when he grows up. I want him to be able to afford a condo or a house. And I feel like a lot of our community members feel the same way. But when the entry point in Shoreline to own something is $800,000 or $1 million, that's clearly a system that's not working. So I'm sort of going back to re-engineer the system to create more affordability. I do think that, I don't want to get too partisan here, but I will say that for Democrats, I think to be excel and compete at a national level so that we don't worry about assaults to our democracy from, I'll just say it, our current president. We need to do better on public safety. We need to do better on housing affordability. And we need entrepreneurs who are starting businesses to feel like my party is on their side. And so I'm working towards that. But I also feel like people need to be safe in this community. And when I worked with police officers as a prosecutor and public defender, I always knew who I was talking to. I always knew their badge numbers, their last names, and I saw their face. And so when we have ICE agents displaying none of those and taking people off the streets, that concerns me deeply from a constitutional level. So I sponsored a bill to ban face masks and require ICE to identify themselves, and that bill passed. I also worked on a couple other bills around ICE to deal with similar issues that also passed. We also passed a millionaire's tax this year that I was a sponsor of. What that did functionally, at the federal level, HR 1, some people call it the big beautiful bill, I don't, cut taxes for millionaires and billionaires while removing tens of thousands of people off of healthcare. So what we did by passing the millionaire's tax was simply reverse that for Washington State and we funded that money back to healthcare.
1 minute.
As well as other things like K-12 education and tax cuts for low-income folks. So we increased the low-income tax credit to 460,000 households. We decreased the business and occupation tax. In fact, we eliminated it for any gross revenue between 0 and 300,000 and reduced it between 3 and 600,000. And as far as Aurora, I think we need to be more active in terms of requiring treatment, not turning a blind eye, going after human traffickers, and also some things that concern me that I see in Aurora in terms of our kids. And I'm trying to get a hold ahead of this is at these smoke shops where they sell kratom, there's 100% active ingredient derivative of kratom that leads to opiate-like addictions. And you may have seen me on King 5 News talking about this. I'm trying to ban that product because, believe it or not, there's no regulations. That means children can buy that. That's scary. And we may, some folks not may not. Sorry, we're done.
That's it. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, thank you. So all three of you, I really thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate hearing from you. And I wish you all the best in August and then in the election this fall. Again, I appreciate your service for the two of you who have served, and appreciate your willingness to serve, Ira, and wish you all the best. So our next group of people we're going to talk about, we're going to visit the candidates for position number 1. I'm going to start with Jenna, and then Will, and then Keith. So just go down the list. I'm going to give you all just a moment here to kind of catch your breath, and it's I think we're right on time. That's one thing that is important. I sit in and run multiple meetings every day, and it seems like my entire time is in meetings. I work for a somewhat neighboring city as the construction manager for a transportation group with a very large program. So understand meetings and keeping them running, and sometimes it's just nice to have just a little break between. And but we will start now with Jenna, and I want to recognize that you are the current Edmonds City Council member, position 7. Is that correct?
Yes.
So excellent. So when you are ready, oh, my timer jumped off. So when you're ready, I'll let you start, and start at your own time.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Dale. And thank you, Echo Lake Neighborhood Association, for hosting us and taking time out of your beautiful Tuesday evening to listen to politicians talk about policy. I'm Jenna Nand. I'm the first woman of color who was elected to Edmonds City Council. I joined public life in 2015. I wanted to help Hillary Clinton beat Donald Trump because I was very worried that women were going to lose Roe v. Wade, and that our nation's 240 plus year experiment in democracy was going to come to an end. I really enjoyed hearing about those of you who live in North City. I was a student at North City Elementary School in 1995 when Shoreline incorporated, and I have deep roots here in the 32nd District. I went to North City, I went to Kellogg Middle School and Shorecrest High School. I was doing Running Start, so I completed my high school diploma at Shoreline Community College. Then I did my AA at Edmonds Community College. I finished my BA at the University of Washington, and I went and I got my JD at the University of Minnesota Law School. I'm, in addition to being a city council member, I'm a small business owner. I'm a volunteer animal rescuer, and I spent 10 years as a caregiver for my terminally ill father before he passed away last year. Some of the achievements that I'm really proud of during my 4 years almost now on Edmonds City Council include establishing a standing committee called the Legal Assessment Committee, which assesses the quality of the legal services that the city of Edmonds is receiving on an annual basis. I also drafted and passed one of the first backyard breeding bans in the country for companion animals, which are dogs, cats, and rabbits. And I named it Arjun's Law in honor of my rescued meat rabbit, Arjun. And then I also co-sponsored a budget amendment in 2024 to defund council's $10,000 training budget in response to the city's fiscal crisis, because I didn't think that taxpayers should be paying for our hotel and travel fees during a fiscal crisis when we had to slash the training budgets for a lot of our city employees. That's something I did in solidarity to them, demonstrate that I think everybody should tighten their belts during periods of austerity. And then just recently, I introduced a motion that the city of Edmonds raise the pride flag on City Hall and that the city attorney draft an ordinance that ongoing the pride flag will be raised on the City Hall in June so that it's no longer a controversy in our city and doesn't reflect poorly on our community and especially on our small business community during Pride Month. So those are some of the things I'm really proud of. My platform is to try to primarily address the cost of living crisis in our region. I think there's a lot of things government can do to make life easier for working families and working people in general. I'd like us to look at our existing laws and state constitution and consider moving to a statewide school funding model for K through 12 education so that local school districts are less dependent on local bonds and levies. I'd also like us to work with our community college system and our four-year institutions to find ways to lower college tuition. I'd like to increase funding for apprenticeship programs so that we can have more pathways to union jobs. My parents immigrated to the United States in 1979, and my dad worked in a baseboard heater factory. That was his first job in America. My mom was a telephone operator, and then they both became teachers, and becoming union members enabled them to join the American middle class. And so that's a path to prosperity that I think we really need to incentivize again in this country. I'd also like us to incentivize the market to create more affordable home equity options so that middle and working class people can start to build intergenerational wealth again in our region, and especially have an economic base during times of economic downturn. I'd like us to pursue practical healthcare reforms so that we are not completely shutting down research and development, which is a major industry and a driver of jobs in our area, but also people aren't looking at medical bankruptcy
1 minute.
or other issues when they receive a life-changing diagnosis. And I'd like us to build climate resiliency in our communities. I'll just tell you quickly, I've gotten the sole endorsement of our teachers through the Washington Education Association, which was my parents' union for decades. I've also been solely endorsed by Snohomish County Executive Dave Summers, Whatcom County Executive Satpal Sidhu. I haven't met the new King County executive yet, but I'll ask him for his endorsement when I do. And then over 15 local elected leaders. And I think the reason why these a lot of local officials have chosen to endorse me is because they know my philosophy to governance is based on outreach, education, compromise, and bipartisanship, because I want to deliver real results for constituents. And I think that that's kind of fallen out of fashion in the type of government we have now, but it's something that I really value. So thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed meeting all of you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you and your service to the city of Edmonds. When I worked for the city of Linwood, I worked with Edmonds on several transportation projects, and so that was back in the dark ages of the last century. Next, Will, when you want to start, and I will start your time. Thank you for being here. I just want to mention that you are also an Edmonds council member, position number 2. And so thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dale. And appreciate everybody taking time out of your busy schedule on such a beautiful day. They say Americans run on Duncans. I say American runs on volunteers. You guys are all volunteers, so really appreciate that. Little background about myself. You probably can tell that from my heavy accents, I was born and raised in China, immigrated to the United States at the age of 24. When I arrived at the United States, my friend picked me up and took me straight to the back of a Chinese restaurant, hand me an apron and say, "Welcome to America," and get to work. So I started working. I spent 3 years, put myself through University of Iowa, obtained my accounting degrees and passed my CPA exams and start working for Kimberly-Clark as an internal auditor. And while I was working on multiple jobs when I pursued my education in the United States. And during my tenure with Kimberly-Clark as an internal auditor, I had a chance to audit our every meal up here and get to know the team really well. And the meal manager submit a request to have me internal transfer from Wisconsin to this every Seattle area. And when I got here, I truly fall in love. Not just with my wife, I formed a family and founded an accounting firm after Kimberly-Clark decided to exit the market. So my public service journey started in 2021. Coming from that background, I would never in a million years thought that I would be involved in politics. But in 2021, there was a kind of a bitter event that I wish it did not happen. It was during the pandemic, and my mother-in-law, who immigrated from Taiwan for about 60 years now, walking on 76th Avenue, going from her condo to my house. We live like just a couple blocks away. Somebody just blow out, told her to go back to her country, to her own country. I was like, when she told me that, I was like, that's not right. So I have to speak up and stand up for those people who are kind of mistreated. So I organized a rally against hate, and many elected officials, including some of the people here on call, come out to support. In the same year, I ran for Edmond City Council against all odds. I was able to obtain my city council seat. My family, I mentioned my wife, who is a high school teacher. She was born and raised here. And has been teaching at Sawquest High School for 24 years. I'm just gonna quickly use this 1 minute to state what I stand for. I stand for affordability. I think every person should be able to offer essentials and dignity of life. And I support fair and progressive taxation. I think one of the reasons that our state was not able to fulfill its congressional constitutional obligations about funding education and a lot of other essential services is our regressive tax structure needs to be more fair, and everybody needs to pay their fair shares. I also wanted to support excellence in education. I think including traditional college, high school, and also the partnerships program provide many jobs opportunity. Not everybody want to and need to obtain a 4-year or even higher education. I think there are lots of job opportunities that requires skilled workforce. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you so much. And we have a group of three council members, and our third council member is Keith Scully, who is Council of Shoreline. So,
thank you. Sorry,
Keith,
go ahead.
when you're ready.
I'm ready. So this is not the first time I've had to follow Will Chen speaking, and he revealed in the last time we spoke together that when he was growing up in China, he had to shower with the pigs. And I thought, I can't compete with that. Like I thought my childhood was rough, but it was apparently nothing on Will Chen's. So I want to credit him for that. So I moved to Shoreline in 2008. I moved here for all the reasons people do, parks and schools and a chance to have a property that was big enough to have, at the time, literal goats and chickens in Ridgecrest, but also and mostly for community. And this meeting is sort of a who's who of folks who have been active in the Shoreline community in the past and on through the present day. I'm going to recognize a couple. I mean, Diane Hetrick and Pam Cross have been the soul of local journalism for a long time. You've got some support now. There's some new folks coming in, but really those two have kept up local reporting at a time when journalism was failing. Gidget and Dennis are a part of every conversation. Marcine was our judge. Bill Hochberg is across the border, but he is a force to be reckoned with. And Buddy is new here, but he has jumped in with both feet. And Patrick Deegan, there are not one, but two restrooms now around Echo Lake, and you get credit for that. I want the assist, but you get credit for that. I doorbelled Pat. I think it was my first campaign, although it might have been the second. And we talked about just that, restrooms. And his wife was there, and she said, it's his weird hobby. You've got to forgive him. But he has been an advocate for public restrooms, and I have been a convert, and I have made sure that happened. Jack Malik, I had a conversation with somebody the other day. He looked at his watch and said, it's been 7 minutes. Jack Malik just came up now. That's longer than usual when you're talking about shoreline politics. So I came here for community, and I knew Cindy Ryu before I moved up here, and I asked her how I could get involved. She said, volunteer for my campaign, which I did on her first House campaign. But based on her advice, I also joined the City of Shoreline Planning Commission 15 years ago. Served 5 years there, including time as chair. Joined the City Council 10 years ago when a vacancy came about. And during my tenure in city government, the city has changed dramatically. But in my view, we've held on to the things that make this just an amazing space. We've seen dramatic changes in the way the city looks, but we've kept it focused around high-capacity transit, leaving our neighborhood character intact. I ran on sidewalks 10 years ago. We've got 14 of them going up around the city. I knew from my first career as a paramedic that there was a tremendous gap in services provided for behavioral health emergencies and what police, paramedics, and firefighters could actually provide. So we have RACER. Those are emergency responders who are in the field, separate from the police department. When we discovered there was no place to take folks having a behavioral health emergency, along with four other cities, we built an emergency room for behavioral health emergencies in Kirkland. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that I'll be there to help you all cut the ribbon and when we're finally done with the 145th Street crossing, and that the pedestrian bridge will be the next project. We are going to close I-5 on August 6th. Sorry, but we have to do it to get that bridge across. That's a major milestone for pedestrian movement. Spent 10 years on the Shoreline City Council, including two as deputy mayor and 2 as mayor. I'm ready for the next challenge. I want to work on progressive taxation. I want to work on affordability. I want to fully fund K-12 education, and I want to keep our focus on environment and energy. In my last couple minutes, I want to focus on some of the questions that I've seen pop up. There's a question about mail-in voting. 100%. That is what makes us an amazing place. We need to defend that. Absolutely. We need to make sure that changes at the federal level are met with responses at the local level to keep our mail-in voting and to keep the drop boxes and everything else we rely on to have a fair election that everyone can participate in. Question about the state bank. I'm all in on that. That was a radical idea 30 years ago. It's time to make it happen. And
1 minute.
Buddy asked a question about education funding. He said he's heard a representative who is who's been there for over a decade, talk about the state's failure when that person is part of the state. So it's simply a matter of making a priority. The state budget has blossomed every year for the last 10 years. We've got to stop that. I favor a 3% cut across all state departments, with that money being funneled to early learning and regressive tax reduction. That will get it done by a long shot, and it is long past time for make that happen. Got a million other things to say, but not a million other minutes to say them in. So thank you for holding this forum, and I'll stop talking.
Thank you, Keith. And thank you again for your service to the city and the residents and businesses of this great city. I'm going to just kind of slow it down again for just a moment. We have three more. We're going to start with Danica Noble, and then Lisa, and then Chris Bloomquist. But it's really interesting. I live in Shoreline, but I shop and recreate in Linwood. I shop and recreate in Edmonds and Mount Lake Terrace, and we are really one big neighborhood, all pulling together. And I may pass through Seattle every day, but very rarely do I go there because everything I need is here in District 32. And so just a little break. Sorry you have to hear from me, but we'll get started again with Danica. And again, as you get ready, or as you're ready, I will hit the button to start. So anytime.
Thanks, everyone. Hi, I'm Danica Noble. I'm a mom, I'm an attorney, I'm a lifelong public servant, I'm a union member, and I am running to lower the cost of living, make technology work for people, and fully fund public education. I've spent the last 20 years with the Federal Trade Commission, suing some of the biggest companies in the world. In this community, I've gone after grocery store mergers that spike the price of our food, hospital mergers that would raise the cost of our healthcare, and even challenge big landlords that want to use AI to raise the rent. I'm anti-monopoly because when companies get too big, they overcharge families, they underpay workers, and they hollow out our communities. So I really believe in economies where businesses can thrive and families can actually get ahead. I've been enforcing affordability laws for 20 years. But for the last 4 years, I've been working on the federal litigation against Meta. And my part of that case was online harms for children. That was a really depressing thing for a mom of kids in elementary, middle, and high school to work on. And we had to fight them, sometimes 100 attorneys to one, to get some of their most critical data and their most sensitive documents. And we got that, and I'm glad we did, because after we went page after page for years, it was completely clear that they were willing to sacrifice our children's safety for their own profits. And that evidence became the basis for the historic lawsuits in New Mexico and Los Angeles that finally holding social media companies accountable for their dangerous products. But here in Washington, we couldn't bring those lawsuits because we don't have the laws on the books. And that's one of the things I'd like to change when I go to Olympia. We are in the midst of a digital transformation, and it's now becoming a data-driven economy. And some of these companies have so much more data than we do. In some cases, they actually know more about us than we know about ourselves. And I don't think we want airlines to charge us more just because they already know we're going to a funeral. I think we want AI to solve cancer, but I don't think we want it to be used to deny our health claims. I think we want this technology to open opportunities in the classroom, not close our children's mind. And I think we want AI to power the future, but not to drain all our energy and leave our communities and our environment worse off. So that's just a little bit about how I have some of unique background, not just in this race, but that I would bring to the legislature. Consumer protection law enforcement, 20 years, including 10 years as the chair of the state Bar Association's Antitrust and Consumer Protection section. I have anti-monopoly backgrounds, and I would be the only person in the legislature with deep AI policy experience that doesn't work for big tech. I think that's an important perspective because we have a once-in-a-generation time to write laws to put people in front of machines and make sure that this technology works for all of us, not just a handful of billionaires. But the real reason why that I'm here now is actually because of education. So I strongly believe that education is the foundation of our economy, the foundation of our democracy. I think it's the great equalizer, and I think it can be transformative. It has been in my own life. My mom grew up in a migrant farm camp, Linnell Farm Camp in the San Joaquin Valley of Central Valley of California. She remembers the first library she ever saw wasn't in her town. She worked really hard and put herself through medical school, and that afforded me far more opportunities than she had. And my kids have far more opportunities than I've had. But that's not good enough, because in this state, the 7th richest state in the nation, we are chronically underfunding education. And the quality of your education still depends on your zip code. So even in communities like Shoreline and Edmonds and Seattle that are passing the education levies, we're still cutting art and music. My son lost reading support, even though he learned how to read during COVID. So I've been going to Olympia for years, advocating with the PTA and then other broader coalitions to fully fund education. First, it was hard to meet with my representatives, and then I kept organizing with more people, and last year brought a busload of kids, parents, teachers, and translators. We got the appointments. We even got in some of the pictures and newsletters, but we didn't get any more money. So I am running to be part of the solution. My father was a Presbyterian minister, and he taught my whole family, and I believe very strongly, that with privilege comes responsibility. And that's why I quit my job 9 months before a full pension to run for office. I'm going to keep standing up to giant corporations who overreach on their power. I am going to stand up for our kids. I will not back down from a fight. And I won't stop from working for this community. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you, Danica. Appreciate all of your tireless support and service with the FTA and your other endeavors. So we need people like you. Next up is Lisa, and then Chris. So Lisa, as you're ready, please start, and I'll start the time, and I will try to be better at giving the 1 minute and the ending.
Fair enough. It's always hard when you're talking to hear it. That's one of the Zoom's inefficiencies. All right. Thank you, Dale, for hosting tonight's forum. And thank you to the Echo Lake Neighborhood Association and board members for the opportunity to be here. Also, thank you to all the candidates here tonight and all the neighbors. So my name is Lisa Rizak, and I'm running for State Representative Position 1. And you said in the email, what do you mention what you bring to the table and why are you running for office? And I find it interesting that almost everyone here so far has mentioned all the great things that brought them to this area, which brings me to the short answer of why I'm running, which is because I can't stand by and watch the place I grew up and love continue down this current path of destruction and unlivability that it's on. I was born and raised in Edmonds and have spent virtually my entire life in this area, except for 10 years in New York City, before my husband and I returned home to raise our son here. So what I bring to the table is a willingness to listen, to ask tough questions, and to get involved. I'm not interested in talking points or politics as usual. I believe elected officials should be out in the community, seeing problems firsthand, and talking to the people living with the consequences of the decisions being made in Olympia. I ran in 2024, and I didn't just read reports. I went to Aurora and people's homes, and I knocked on doors. I talked with business owners about what it's like trying to keep their doors open while dealing with constant theft, rising taxes, and policies that make it harder and harder to keep their doors open and survive. And more recently, just 2 weeks ago, I attended the community meetings and marches organized by the neighbors on Aurora who've been living through the violence of the pimp wars and decided to close down the streets themselves as a response to the city doing nothing about their fears and complaints. They all said simply, they quit calling the police despite constant gunfire in their neighborhood. I listened to their concerns. I heard firsthand how abandoned they feel by city leadership and have stayed in touch with many of them to hear the ongoing response of city officials. So one story hasn't left me. There's a 14-year-old girl described looking out her family's window and seeing girls her own age being trafficked outside her home. I find it interesting that nobody's mentioned this so far on this call. This isn't Columbia. This is Green Lake. That's happening here in our community, and I'm appalled. And it's been happening way before I came along. And we should all be mad about this because this is unacceptable. So 6 years ago, I became engaged in what was happening around us. And human trafficking was one of the issues that drew me in. I began educating myself and realized that it wasn't something happening halfway around the world, but right here in Washington, just a block and a half from my own home on Aurora. I remember looking at a map and thinking it wasn't hard to understand that between our international border with Canada, our ports, and our I-5 corridor running the length of the West Coast, Washington is an ideal route for traffickers. And I don't understand how our leadership doesn't understand this or talk about it. This is completely unacceptable to me. That's why I'm involved. So I've watched businesses close, families struggle under rising taxes and costs, and we're spending nearly $20,000 per child, which is the same as any decent private school, with 59% of our students performing below grade level expectations and failing to adequately prepare our children for college or the workforce. We do not have a funding problem. We have a spending problem. Yet every time concerns are raised, the answers seem to be the same. Spend more money and raise more taxes. If that worked, we'd be seeing these great results across the board, but that's not the case. I know I seem angry, but these are our children. This is our future. My son can't live here any longer because he's got to move out of Seattle. 1 minute, thank you. So I couldn't disagree more with that response. Yes, that's the only answer our one-party government and city and state leadership constantly give. So I'm going to get down to this. So the other thing that's my priority is fraud, waste, and abuse. And I know we all probably heard recently about the King County Regional Homeless Authority could not account for approximately $13 million in public funds. This is a perfect example of our taxpayer money being stolen, mismanaged, or spent irresponsibly. And we have a duty to uncover it and stop it. And that's one of my biggest reasons I'm running. So I want to be a watchdog for taxpayers, a voice that exposes waste, uncovers abuse, and demands accountability. And I believe that when we spend smarter and eliminate waste, we will actually be able to serve people better and fund these schools like you guys are all talking about in ways that could really make a difference for our children by directing the resources to those who truly need them instead of allowing bureaucracy, fraud, and inefficiency to consume them. I love my neighbors. I love this town. And that's why I'm fighting. And I don't have a problem with people, but I don't agree with all ideas. So that's why I'm running. So thank you today. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Dale.
Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, Chris Bloomquist. So Chris, when you're ready.
Well, I'll just start with mad respect for Lisa's passion. We are both passionate people, so I respect that. Thank you all, everyone, the Echo Lake community. My name's Chris Bloomquist. I am candidate for state rep in the 32nd district. Let's do a quick overview of who I am, my values, my life experiences that support my candidacy for state rep. Soy un chileno americano. I'm a Latino. I'm a father, a small business owner, an environmental recruiter, a degreed engineer. I earned my computer engineering degree from Iowa State University. Go Cyclones. I use sports coach and a nonprofit board member. Part of how I see the world is through my multicultural and varied leadership lenses. My mother fled Chile during Pinochet's terror regime in the 70s. For all of you who may or may not know, Pinochet was basically Chile's Hitler in the 70s. And during that time, during that terror regime, my mom came to live with her family in the Midwest. Chile lost its democracy for a generation, and our family lost my grandmother to political tyranny. My mother's been a citizen for over 50 years. She now carries her passport to the grocery store for fear of ICE detainment. I know how important and precious defending our democracy is, and it's the basis for my campaign. Trump's assault on our civil rights, our education, our environment, and our democracy overall must be stopped. It's going to take courageous leadership to push back on federal overreach. And I'm proud that as a Latino, I was able to support Senator Valdez, who's one of my endorsers, on demasking ICE with Senate Bill 5855 in Olympia, which was passed into law. In terms of my qualifications, it does start with my family's belief in community leadership through volunteerism and ends with my pragmatic engineering mindset. My wife and I co-led the Seattle chapter of the Iowa State Alumni Association. She's been the PTA president for Broadview Thompson. Our oldest daughter has paged for the state house. I've been a volunteer leader for organizations like Year Up Seattle, Perscolis, PNW Climate Week, where I put on our first ever career fair, and the Katie Hall Foundation, which supports BIPOC girls in leadership and wellness opportunities. All these organizations strive for socioeconomic, environmental, and educational investment, specifically for underserved communities. That's something I'm very passionate about. I believe to be an effective state rep, it starts with not just knowing your community, but truly living in it. So outside of my community service, I've been heavily involved in economic and career development. As an environmental recruiter, I've helped nearly 1,000 folks find employment over 20 years, giving guidance, support, and allyship along the way. I also mentor and guide aspiring entrepreneurs, and I've led and had the opportunity to found several recruiting startups. Proud to say that all my business endeavors have been self-funded and successful. In terms of focus areas, I'm focused on a few key areas. So they include legislating AI. I am a degreed software engineer. I've written code. I've worked with engineers and placed them in jobs. And as a former software engineer and environmentalist, I care deeply on putting guardrails on AI so that it's centered on clean energy, that it benefits society first, and most importantly, it's consented by the communities in which they're built. If it's not community supported, it needs moratoriums, and we're seeing that across the country, that a lot of communities are pushing back on the way AI and data centers are being built, and I very much support that. This has to support society and communities first and foremost. I did get asked to run for state rep by Representative Davis because my family and I have been going to Olympia to fully fund and support our public schools and educators. I've been going there for Legislative Advocacy Day for the PTA. I also believe in progressive tax reform to lower taxation for working class Washingtonians, as well as providing tax relief for small businesses to help generate more hiring and keep small businesses thriving. I literally just held a small business forum earlier today. They talked a lot about public safety and taxation and making taxation based on profitability, not revenue. 1 minute left.
1 minute.
I poured my heart and soul in this campaign. Since January, I've knocked on over 7,500 doors. I've reached over 10,000 voters. I've earned endorsements from our state reps, from Lauren Davis, from Senator Solomon, and 32nd District. I've also earned community support from Moms Demand Action, the Environmental and Climate Council of Washington State Democrats, and Walk Hops. I'm trying to build a well-rounded campaign that brings pragmatism to my democratic values of civil rights and engineering mindset of accountability. My process is going to be to listen, to learn, and to legislate. I look forward to listening to more of you and making sure that I put the needs of my community first. And I appreciate you all giving me the opportunity to speak. And thank you so much.
And thank you. Boy, you left 10 seconds on the table, Chris.
I try to be brilliant and be brief.
Thank you again. Well, again, and thank you, 3 and all 6 of you who are running for this position. Really appreciate all of your passion, your hard work, your expertise. We need smart people who care about things, and you all seem to be smart people who care about things. And I just really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. And good luck on August 4th and beyond. So we have one more group for running for position 2. We'll just take a second. I just kind of want to mention to people, as you're listening to people, unfortunately, 5 minutes is just far, far too little time for each person. And I apologize. I wish we had 3 hours, but I got to get up and go to work in the morning, and I think everybody else does, and you do too. But just as we listen to them, listen to their passion, listen to the things that you are interested in, that things that they may pique your curiosity, and then go to their websites and investigate more. We all have a duty as citizens to investigate and to vote wisely and smart. There are people in the world that would give almost everything for the opportunity that we have to vote in this system. And so, thank you for all being here tonight, and just listen and investigate more. So our last group, and we're tracking pretty well. Almost 20 after 8. We have Lauren Davis and then Imran Siddiqui. If I pronounce that incorrectly, correct me when it's your time, and we'll get it right next time. People's names are important, and being able to pronounce them and to remember them are important, I think, for all of us. So, Lauren, when you are ready, we'll let you start, and on your time.
Awesome. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I do want to echo the thanks to the organizers, and thank you to all of you for taking the time to attend and to listen. So my name is Lauren Davis. I have had the tremendous honor, it's truly been the honor of a lifetime, to be your state representative for the last 8 years. By way of background, I am a proud product of our public schools here in Washington State. I went to college on the East Coast. My undergraduate degree was in ethnic studies. And after college, I actually moved to Ghana in West Africa, where I lived for 2.5 years. I was a Fulbright scholar studying education and the elementary and primary education system specifically. When I moved back to the United States, I got a job working at the Gates Foundation, because if you're a kid from Seattle and you want to work in international development, that's sort of where you land. And in all candor, I thought I'd work in international development my whole life. But all of that changed when I came home. When I came back, I found my best friend, Ricky Garcia, who was my friend from Seattle. During the time that I was living abroad, he had developed a very severe alcohol addiction and opioid addiction. And I ended up spending the next couple years while I was working at the Gates Foundation as his principal caregiver. And during that time, I watched Ricky bounce like a pinball machine through our state's very broken mental health and substance use disorder treatment systems. And I spent both my 25th and my 26th birthdays at Harborview at Ricky's bedside. One year he was in the ICU after a nearly fatal overdose, and the next year he was in the psychiatric unit after a suicide attempt. And I was just horrified by what had happened to him in our system and our system's inability to be responsive. And so actually quit not just my job, but I quit my whole career in international development, and I went to go work in behavioral health. And I helped start a suicide prevention nonprofit at the University of Washington School of Social Work called Forefront. While I was there, I took my vacation days down at the state capitol as a citizen advocate, and I started advocating for a piece of legislation called Ricky's Law that passed in 2016 and was the third largest investment in addiction treatment in state history, and essentially created a system for a crisis commitment for people with life-threatening substance use disorder for adults and kids. I then went on to help found the Washington Recovery Alliance and became the founding executive director, behavioral health advocacy organization that does work related to public policy and public understanding. And I had spent some time around the Capitol at that point related to behavioral health advocacy and suicide prevention policy. And a number of women in the House Democratic Caucus asked me to run for office. And I actually said no many, many times. And then eventually I realized that maybe they were right, that if my goal was to reform our state's behavioral health system, maybe in fact it was more efficacious to do that from the inside, so to speak. And so I've spent the last 8 years working on that and other issue areas. In behavioral health specifically, I'll just mention a few things that I'm really proud of. I was a lead architect of our state's redesign of our crisis system with the implementation of 988, the behavioral health emergency line, someplace to call, someone to respond, the implementation of mobile crisis teams in our state, and then someplace to go, the crisis receiving centers. Particularly proud of, we just opened our Linwood Crisis Care Center earlier this month. We had our ribbon cutting, which is the third in the entire state, actually, that will serve our district. I was the architect of the state's Recovery Navigator program, which was a statewide expansion of the law enforcement assisted diversion model. I've worked to massively expand access to naloxone, the overdose reversal agent, and ensure that every patient with opioid use disorder in any healthcare setting actually receives a naloxone kit. I have authored multiple bills and budget provisos related to adding hundreds and hundreds of beds of recovery housing in the state of Washington, access to medications for opioid use disorder, and supports for families impacted by addiction. I've also done a tremendous amount of work related to domestic violence, very personal for me as a domestic violence survivor, and ensured that abusers can't access firearms, funded legal aid for victims and training for judges and law enforcement. And I'm running for re-election because my work isn't yet finished. In fact, the longer I've been in office, the more issues and breadth of issues I've taken on. And I'm a much better lawmaker and much stronger representative of our district than I was when I first ran, and really hope to continue serving you all. So thank you so much.
And thank you. And I did mean to say, and I apologize, Lauren is the incumbent in this position. And we do thank you for your representation. So last is, and again, certainly not least, is Imran Siddiqui. And if I mispronounce that, please correct me.
No, it's perfect. Yeah, great job. Just like my mom.
Excellent. So thank you for being here. And so please start at your will.
Yeah, hey everyone. Thank you to the Echo Lake community for having me here. I'm Imran Siddiqui, and I'm running for a state representative position too. And my life has been shaped by stepping up and meeting the moments. I'm the son of immigrants who came to this country from India. I was born in Auburn, Alabama, grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. My brother, who's 12 years older than me, who I idolized, where I get my taste in music, the sports teams that I follow, he became the primary breadwinner for our family's business as my parents got older. That all changed in 1999 when he was in a horrible car accident and nearly died and suffered a traumatic brain injury. At that point, I was 19 years old, and I jumped in to help my parents and my brother's young family, who had two small babies, to help stabilize our family's situation. Through this experience, I've seen firsthand how the healthcare system, insurance companies, and profits over people have crept into people's lives, where we had to make crucial family decisions on my brother's care, therapy, and path to recovery. I'm also a father of three sons, one of whom just graduated from Mount Lake Terrace High School. I live in Mount Lake Terrace on Saturday, and thankfully my brother was in attendance. He's gone on to live a happy and productive life despite his limitations, and so it was definitely a full circle moment for me. This journey has also included me getting my MBA and running my own small business, but my life's passion has taken me into the world of being a civil rights and immigrants' rights leader for the past 16 years, including the last 6 years as the executive director of the Muslim civil rights group, CARE Washington. In 2021, I founded the Immigrant Justice Project at CARE Washington, sensing an urgent need to provide immigration legal services for vulnerable community members. And given what we're seeing in the present day, I'm glad that I did. We're living in a moment where our democracy is at stake. Our neighbors here in Shoreline, Mount Lake Terrace, and throughout LD 32 are being picked up by masked ICE agents, with this administration attempting to ship people off to third countries. Families are being separated. A 2-year-old child was left crying in the back seat of his car on Aurora Avenue as his father was thrown into the back of an ICE vehicle. This isn't theoretical or hyperbole. This is reality, and we must step up to meet this moment. There are things that we can do inside the Washington State Legislature to limit the power of ICE and the Trump administration. Washingtonians should be able to utilize the legal system if they're injured or suffer damages at the hands of these racist ICE agents as well. And I'll sponsor legislation that ensures that they have this right. We've seen the governor sue GEO Group based on the data that my Immigrant Justice Project gathered, and I've been called in as an expert advocate to advocate for important laws such as the Immigrant Worker Protection Act and many others this past legislative session. So I have that built-in credibility in Olympia already with many lawmakers. With a family of five, with my wife and myself both being nonprofit workers, we both know that the middle class and the working class are struggling during this time of massive wealth inequality. We literally have the first trillionaire in our lifetimes. And while most Washingtonians are struggling to pay their grocery bills and take their families out to eat, we need to ensure that we have a more equitable system that ensures that our working class and middle class aren't continually hit by regressive taxes. We constantly are being told by our policymakers when we go to Olympia that we don't have the budget to fund these vital human services, and we have to ask the question why. We need a fighter who is going to represent this district and stand on the front lines to fight for what's right. That's why I've been endorsed by so many sitting legislators who know what I bring is needed during this vital time. And I look forward to your support. I've prided myself as a business owner and as a community leader to be responsive and empathetic, and I can guarantee you that I'll continue my legacy of doing just that for my constituents in LD 32. And just on the questions that were put in the chat, yes to the state bank, yes to fully funding the schools, and yes to voting by mail. It's definitely protecting these rights is extremely important. And yeah, thank you so much.
1 minute? No, you got 1 minute.
Yeah, other than that, I mean, I would just say that I've been on the front lines of getting people out of ICE detention as well. My team, we've seen these protests happening in our district, the No Kings rallies and all of these types of things. And at the doors, people do want to see somebody who's standing up against this administration and doing just that. And my team has gotten people out of ICE detention during these past few months. We've beaten the Trump administration in court. And so that just shows us when we fight, we win. So I'll be that fighter for this district to make sure that we stand up and introduce these pieces of legislation to ensure that our district is protected.
All right. Thank you so much. And both of you, again, I say good luck on August 4th and beyond in the election this fall. It's 8:28. This went just a little bit faster than I anticipated, but I really do appreciate the fact that we were able to hear from you all. I'm going to ask Diane if you have any comments. I first met Diane at a candidates forum about 20 years ago or so. And Diane has always been involved in this city and this district. So Diane, do you have anything that you'd like to say? You are muted.
Well, as I'm listening to people, I'm thinking that I need to include information about where you all live, because that does influence what your comments are and what your issues are. Lisa, I suspect that you live in Seattle. Is that correct? Just nod. Yeah. And
I think Lisa and Chris both, I think, right?
But Lisa is so concerned about the mess on North Aurora. And yeah, that's clearly a very Seattle issue because we keep pushing it down and Seattle keeps pushing it up. So she's in the squish zone. But and so that's something that I'm going to check. I think I can find the information on all of you, which city you live in. And we've got a diverse district. When I started making the list of what cities we represent, I think I came up with 5, and not counting unincorporated Esperance, 6. Geez. Yeah, and that's quite a mishmash. But I will say, to something Dale said earlier, when I first moved here, of course, Shoreline wasn't incorporated. So I always told people I lived at Snow King. And there were a lot of people that called it Snow King too.
There you go. There's
so
our district.
Well, what I'm thinking I'll do is try and pull all of these comments together, send them out to the candidates, let you respond, and then send it out to people. I'm starting to see the email getting longer and longer as we talk, but that's okay. So if that's all right with all of you, you can expect, give me some time to pull it together, but you can expect an email from me with all of the comments and questions that people have asked here in the chat. And if anybody has anything else, be sure and put it in the chat now. We can copy that before we close out the meeting. Right?
Yes,
Jay?
Absolutely.
Dale? Okay.
Jay?
Yes. In fact, it stays even after the meeting.
So our primary public primary forum is now concluded. And again, I do want to thank all of you. And I just really appreciate hearing from you. And, many of you said things that make me want to to investigate you more. And so, that's the beauty of these forums. It helps us to prepare ourselves. And, so thank you. And Cindy, like you, I have a daughter who was an Echo Lake student who just graduated last Saturday with her master's in teaching from Western Washington. So way to go, teachers. So thank you all. I think we will now go back into really kind of an informal public comment and comments about things that are happening here in Echo Lake and in Shoreline, because we are the Echo Lake neighborhood of Shoreline between 205th and 185th and Highway 99 and I-5. And that is who we are. So any comments from the floor about things that you're seeing, things that we should be aware of, things that you would like us or should be addressed? If you see anything at the park, Echo Lake Park or Shoreline Park, that Patrick needs to be aware of, because he will be a tireless advocate for both of those parks and the other things. So comments from the floor? Marcine? Oh, you're muted.
I have two issues that are constant issues for me living in Echo Lake, which I've lived in Echo Lake for 20 years now. One that's always been a problem is mailboxing. So losing my mail because people are getting into my mailbox and stealing it. And two, the coyotes that are running around in our neighborhood. One of my Chihuahua got grabbed by a coyote last year. She survived, but there's nothing that anyone can do because I think the coyotes are here because there's lots of bunny rabbits, and no one will do anything about them. They are really in the green belt or along Meridian. And so those are the two things that I think are pretty much Echo Lake issues. I don't know if everybody else has coyotes in their backyard, but they're a pest.
It's true. I hear that burros will chase coyotes away, but I don't think that we are all going to get burros. And part of this is Diane. Part of this is Diane's fault, because Diane at least used to have a coyote warren right next to her house on I think backing up on Highway 104.
I'm on the trail. I have a trail that goes right through my backyard with the coyotes. Marcine, they're everywhere. They are everywhere. Yeah. The problem is that what I've been told is that a successful wild animal population is one that you don't see. So the fact that we're seeing all these coyotes means that they're getting used to us. And I think one of the issues is that every time somebody sees a coyote, they stop and take a picture. And what you're supposed to be doing is yelling, screaming, making a big fuss, a lot of noise, flapping things to make yourself look bigger and scaring them off. But we just take pictures and say, oh, look at that. And then we post it on social media. Don't mind me. But that's the answer. And there are even people that have fed them. There was a woman, well, anyway, there are people that were feeding them and not just the bunnies. They've been here forever. So we also have possums and raccoons, and I don't see them very often at all. I now have squirrels in the front yard and a rat crawling up and eating the suet that I put out for the birds. So yeah, we live in a wildlife preserve. And yeah, they do travel on the green belts. Absolutely. You can be certain that any green space in Shoreline has a coyote den. I've traced routes for 3 routes in my particular neighborhood. There's a coyote den in the corner of the cemetery. They like them there.
Yeah, that's fine.
They don't dig holes, and they keep the graves Okay, but I know the route that they use, and they switch off every 3 months, and then they go to the den in the back part of the cemetery, and then they've got one someplace else. Anyway, don't let me go on about this. I have noted your concern.
Yeah, I grew up in Central Washington, and of course, the way to get rid of coyotes in Central Washington, they were varmints, so we shoot them. Don't advocate that.
Thank you.
Especially not in downtown Shoreline.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you won't be able to shoot them in the city of Shoreline. I think
No.
that would be incorrect. And I don't
But-
mind all the other animals here, but the coyotes are destructive. And you know, they came into my totally fenced backyard at lunchtime and tried to make a meal out of my chihuahua. So that's the only reason why. And that through a lot of research, I found that nobody can or will do anything about them.
The Department of Fish and Wildlife won't allow it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if you complain, then they will send people with shotguns to walk through our backyards at midnight to look for them. We don't really want that either.
Not at all.
No, we don't. And then mail theft, I think it's, you're right, it is still an issue. Other than a locking mailbox, I don't know.
I got a PO box in an area. That's how I deal with it. But about 2 months ago, I got somebody else's mail from Edmonds shoved in my mailbox, and I'm 100% certain the post office didn't deliver that. So it's really an ongoing problem too.
Yeah.
It's so. I traced a one time, and because everybody started telling me about their mail being stolen, and I finally figured out that whoever they were, they came from they came from Bothell Way. They came up through Lake Forest Park, turned into my neighborhood, hit my neighborhood, went to the back, went over, crossed Meridian, went over into Central Shoreline, and went off, I don't know where, but they hit 6 places on the way. So I don't know where they were from or where they were going. They were just being opportunistic. And I think a lot of them are like that.
Mm-hmm. Other comments?
Gail, Claudia has her hand up.
Oh, Claudia?
Yes, I just wanted to thank each of you who are running for office. I wish I could vote for all of you. Each person brings such important background and experience and fervor. And, we need you all. So I hope that there is some way that you can and do continue to work to make our situation better. Like I say, I wish I could vote for you all. That's all. Thank you.
And for those who are not successful in August, I just would encourage you to continue. All of you have, like I said, you're smart people with a lot of passion and you care. And we need you all. I wish we could take all of you and put you all together to make the uber perfect candidate. But we can't do that. And, again, we thank you. Other comments?
Yeah, Nemo here.
Nemo, yes.
On what you were speaking about, all the candidates, maybe can start thinking about how we can move away from our bipolar country. You're either against the Democrats or against the Republicans. Because on both sides are going to be issues with which we agree, and we have to forego those. Or at least for myself, as for president, I don't vote for president. I vote against who I don't want the most. So maybe you could start thinking about that and talking about that, and we could work on that as keep that in the background as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I want to vote for people who are going to reach across the aisle. And I think it's critical for this country and it's critical for us. and it takes courage and strength.
And I see someone put in the comment, Cindy put in the comments about ranked choice voting. So
yeah,
that's one step in that direction. And then as long as if I have the microphone for another moment.
Yes, sir.
I saw something recently that there was talk about connecting the trail across the border there. Anything happening with that?
Rod Dembowski's working actively on it. The bicycle groups are very interested in it.
I hate to suck up air as a candidate, but can I respond to that?
Yeah.
So Rod just held an event right on the trail, and he's got $5 million to move it forward. King County is taking the lead on it. Shoreline's put money into it. The rest of the cities are fully supportive. So you should see a solid plan coming out, hopefully within the next year. And then, there's still millions and millions of dollars to build a project of that magnitude, but we should hopefully get at least an outline of what needs to be done within the near future.
And I would encourage everybody, this interurban trail, it's kind of concept, and people don't realize that the interurban trail was an interurban railway at the turn of the century, the last century. And Linwood has a park, a heritage park on Poplar Way, across from the Jaguar dealership, that actually has a refurbished trolley in it. And there are times during the summer on the weekends, especially Saturday, where they open it and people can actually go inside of the trolley. I would encourage that. When I was at Linwood, I was the project manager for the development of that park, and it's pretty incredible. And it was quite an advanced transportation system in it was 1912 when they started to build it through the tall timber of North King and South Snohomish County. But in the 20s, it was a 55-minute trip from downtown Seattle to downtown Everett. And here we are a century later, we finally have light rail, but it's still not to Everett. And so, just on a family outing sometime, visit it and see what it used to be. There's great pictures. There's great pictures of through Shoreline, and the historic meet at Mount Lake Terrace next to Lake Ballinger, and it's pretty incredible. And there was a bridge that essentially crossed over where Highway 104 is now, and so what's old is new again, maybe. And so, yeah, thank you, Keith, for bringing us up to date.
And don't forget, there's still people waiting for the interurban down at Lake Union.
Yep, and that is that interurban. So pretty incredible. How it drove the development of this region. Yeah, thank you, Nemo. And I guess I should say that there's also photos and things at the Shoreline Museum also. Really great collections there too. Well, it's 8:45.
Speaking
go ahead,
of the
Claudia.
interurban, I would like to put my voice in again for a drinking fountain on the interurban trail, which runs from north to south through Shoreline. And there are no drinking fountains on the entire trail. So an ideal place for the drinking fountain would be at Echo Lake Park, right next to the Louvre, where there is currently water. And it would not be too terribly expensive, even though I know it is a capital expense. So if you're in favor of this, attend the the meeting in September when they talk about, when Shoreline City talks about the budget, and maybe we can get it incorporated into that. Thank you.
That's what the capital budget is for, isn't it? For things that we want or need.
I'd like to put in a plug for our web page. Our web page has a history section that has some really fascinating articles about the early days of the area. And there's even a picture of the trolley that Dale's talking about, and not a huge article, but a section on that. But it's got all the history back to when there was a sawmill on Echo Lake. So that's Echo Lake neighborhood history.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a book by the author Warren Wing that is kind of the history of the interurban trolley, and it's a great read if you look it up on one of the websites, or maybe even in the library. I'm not sure. King or Snohomish Island County. Jill?
I'd love to plant a seed. So many candidates talk about increasing funds for education. And having worked in the Shoreline School District as a family advocate, I've seen firsthand all the budget cuts. In fact, family advocates where our time was cut in half. But at least we have family advocates in Shoreline. So the seed I'd like to plant, specifically in the Shoreline School District, and I'm sure it's most school districts, the ratio in our high schools and middle schools of counselors to students is quite astonishing. It's in the high school, I can't remember if it's 250 students to one counselor, or maybe 350 students to one counselor. Either way, it's a lot of students per counselor. And in Shoreline, these numbers actually meet the guidelines for whatever association dictates that ratio, which again is very astonishing. So, and I know Representative Davis, you've worked on mental health for so many years and you've done amazing work. Thinking about what our kids are going through with depression, anxiety, and fill in the blank, to not get that help in the schools because there aren't enough safe adults to talk to. So if there was one area to focus on, I would like to plant that seed to see if there was a way to increase that support for our kids. So I worked in Highland Terrace, an elementary school. So again, very lucky that every Shoreline school has a part-time family advocate. But a part-time family advocate in a high school of 1,200 people, it's just not enough.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands. I think that at 8:50, I think we will close this meeting out. One last from the floor, no? So candidates, thank you so much for taking the time to be here and for sticking around with us and listening to some of the concerns too. I really do appreciate you and your time and wish you all the best. Yeah. So
Thank you for doing this.
thank you.